he's becoming the villain also in a way. I've squandered a few opportunities. You know, it's starting to become, you know, a rumor around the league. It triggers early panic. There's dominance to it. Doesn't really get you remembered. That's the problem. I really wanted to be great. Yes, we're not on the same page, me and my father, when it comes to it. Was a tough pill to swallow. Play coach if you can, do teach, kind of trying to bait the NO. Joe G and John.
Pressure fears us.
Excuses make petty. But I spoke to almost every captain. You know what? I think I work harder than everybody else.
Doesn't look like a team to me.
Joe Greenberg's the best player in the league, and John's the best shortstop in the league, and Daniel's the best captain in the league. I don't know if it was Daniel's plan to come out and get the whole league riled up.
Live from the underwater, the flooded and mushy Fireman's East, we are here with captain of the Kekambas and reigning MVP of the YMSL, Mr. Jack Abady. Jack, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Norm. Appreciate it.
Jack, let's get right to it. You guys came out of an off-season in which JT assessed your draft and said he didn't give your team an F, he gave your draft an F. What does that even mean, first of all? And how did you react when you saw that off the out of spring training?
It was a tough pill to swallow, you know. JT's a very good friend of mine. And I thought I had a very good draft. I thought I went into the draft with, you know, a purpose of who I wanted to get out of the draft and the certain type of player and what I wanted to build. And I kind of got everything I wanted. And then, you know, watching the shows, in the highlight of the preview, he said one team got an F, you know? So you're watching the first one, no, they get an A. The second one, no, they get a B+. The third one, and now it's getting there's 3 teams left. My team's one of them. And I know he gave someone an F.
Right.
And then, you know, he gave us the F.
Genius marketing out of the film crew on
definitely great. Held our suspense, kept us watching through the whole entire series. Although I didn't watch the Aces. After I got an F, the Aces were the last team, I just shut it off, and I don't, you know, didn't know much about that team. But you know what? I think it's just all fun. At the end of the day, it was always going to come down to, you know, what we did, and you have to earn it. JT giving you an A isn't going to make you, you know, 8-2 or 7-3. You're going to have to come out on the field. I still believed in the players, and if anything, it pushed us to work a little harder those last 3 weeks and had that chip on our shoulder, something that swimming had last year. And you know what? We're here. We're 7-3, so we're not looking back at the F too much.
Now, you set the tone pretty early. You opened up on Fireman's West against Ralph Hannon, who now, going back to last year, I think you've scored 40 runs against him, maybe 50 runs against him in 4 games. I mean, it is absolutely crazy what you've done against him. Is it that have you always liked facing him, or is it just the last 2 years, or what is going on that you have mercied him 2 years in a row, basically?
I don't know. You know what? It's tricky because in between those 2 games, he pitched us in the 1-game playoff, and he pitched very well against us.
Yeah.
And they kind of, you know, let us win that game. I think, you know what, in this league, it comes down to finding ways to win and building your camaraderie. That first game of the year was a back-and-forth game, and they walked me a couple of times, and Mark came through. And you know what? If we don't win that first game, who knows where you are. I think eventually you figure things out. But we've had a lot of tight games this year, and we've shown that we can win a lot of tight games.
Yes.
And I think that'll come big in the playoffs.
Not only who knows where you end up, if they win that first game, maybe they don't lose the first 4, and maybe they're not in panic mode, and then they have to make a trade and everything like that. The opening day, every year we see it, it sets 2 teams in different directions, that opening day sweep. I guess it's either panicking too early or just momentum, or I don't know what it is, but that one game sets teams in different directions. I remember when AB swept AB Saka 2 years ago. AB Saka started 1-7, right, but his team was good. I don't know, you know,
I think, you know what it is. It's a 14-game season, so it sounds like there's a lot of games. But you know, at the end of the year, last place to third place is 1 game. You know, it's
Yeah.
just, and especially now with 5 teams making the playoffs, you don't want to be in the 4-5.
No.
And you can't be 6 or 7 or 8. So there's not much breathing room. Every game means so much. And you know what? If it triggers early panic or early decision making, but you look at Maurice's team now from week 1, and I think that whatever it caused him to do, he made the right moves. His team it looks on paper and on play as a much stronger team than it was when we played them week 1. And if we have to play them again, you know, who knows what would happen.
Yes, it's definitely a rising moon now. Let me ask you, through 2 weeks, you had not gotten out through 17 plate appearances, which is just ridiculous. Like, that's like fake almost. How does it feel? Did you feel you were ever going to get out? Did you know you were in a crazy zone? I mean, in baseball, that's not normal. 17 plate appearances in a row.
It was not normal. I definitely felt week 1, I was locked in and in the zone. Week 2, I was also hitting the ball hard. I got a little bit bailed out on my second to last hit or last hit. Saul, I hit a ground ball to third. I thought I hit it pretty hard. And it wasn't right to him. It was a little bit to his left, and it went off his glove. So I kind of got a second chance at keeping the streak alive. But you know, just trying to take it one at bat at a time. I didn't think I was ever going to make out. People on the show, there was a topic week 3: is he going to make out? Is he not going to make out? Eventually, I was always going to make out. But my job was just to prolong it as many at bats as I could go. And I happened to make out the first at bat week 3. I hit a comebacker right off A.B. Saka's thigh, and he stuck with it and made a nice play.
Okay, so let me ask you, you said you got everything you wanted through the draft. Clearly you wanted speed. Clearly you wanted defense. You got all of that. Clearly you wanted some nice big bats to protect yourself in the lineup and to keep the line moving, because your lineup is very, very long. But was your plan going in with the pitcher was to see how the draft goes, or did you speak to A.B. Cohen pre-draft? What was your plan, and what was your, like, when were you going to take a different pitcher at some point?
So I didn't speak to A.B. Cohen pre-draft, but I spoke to almost every captain pre-draft, and I got the feeling that people rather have Leo than have A.B. Cohen. So when I got that sense, I said, you know what, he's going to fall to me, and he's going to fall to me later than he's ever gone. You know, 2 years ago, JT with the Phillies, or 3 years ago, he took him in the 2nd round.
Yes.
So it's been 3 years. That's a long time. And you know what? He's maybe not the same pitcher. Maybe he is the same pitcher. You know, if you look at Game 2 last week, he looked like the same pitcher he was on the Phillies when he led the league in ERA. But with that being said, I knew I could get him late. I knew the type of guy he is, and I kind of wanted my team to be that way. You know, the no cursing and the respect, and my father wants to come to the games also. I kind of embraced it. It's not usually always been my style, but this year I thought it would be a nice change of pace to play with him. I've never played with him, and it gave me the focus of picking defense and my friends and hitting, and not having to worry about the pitcher.
So it's another example of captains talking too much before the draft, because then you knew that he was just going to be there whenever you wanted him. You knew this guy was going Leo before him. You knew this guy was married to Jeff Sacco or whatever. I always tell the captains, it doesn't affect me, I don't care, but I always tell them, don't reveal your plans. Why would you tell your enemies what exactly you're going to do before a war? It never made sense to me. And you pulled out a couple of curveballs in your draft, actually, because everyone thought when you took Jake that maybe you were going to take Mark, and then Mark fell to you anyway. You got to scoop him up on Sunday morning, and then all of a sudden you had an Untouchables feel coming together again. Right. Again with the maybe lower pitcher, but all these fast guys that are friendly and everything. So clearly it was definitely not an F like JT said, but forget the draft. It's how you guys came together after the 17-1 win helps that. The batting cages all help that. How does it make you feel when we have Teddy Ishak come on the show last week and just say, like, there's no doubt about it, here's the spoiler alert, here's the bulletin board material, we're going to sweep you?
Yeah, I think the same reason why Skip Bayless has a show on Fox every morning is if he came on and said that we were going to split or he was going to get swept, it probably doesn't raise eyebrows. I think, you know, Teddy had a plan. I don't know if it was Dano's plan to come out and get the whole league riled up.
Right.
It never seems like a smart thing to put a bullseye on your back. But he did that, and now they got to back it up. And you know what? It's not really up to Teddy to back it up. That's the problem. Because now Joe G and John and Eddie Harari have to back up what Teddy came on the show and said.
Right.
So I think that, no one, even though he thinks he's not a 7th-round pick, I think most 7th-round picks hit 340 like Teddy's hitting. So he may make all the plays at short center, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't really watched their games too much, but I know that, he's kind of trying to cash a check that his teammates are going to have to deposit.
Gotcha. Now, I don't think it was Dano's plan, but I do think Dano's plan is you got to let T.I. be T.I., otherwise he can't perform or whatever. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, earlier in the week, you saw in the captain's chat, I was kind of trying to bait Dano into, maybe moving this game to prime time, kind of trying to get it to become a rivalry, and he wanted no part of it.
Right.
Then 2 days later, his he comes out on his teammate comes out with the American flag and singing the Star-Spangled Banner, whatever it's called.
What an image it was to see him with that flag draped around him.
It was great. It was great for ratings. I think it was a great show. I enjoyed it. I think that, but like you said, me thinking about not ever making out was not realistic in my head. Him going into week 6, thinking they're never going to lose a game, I don't know how that helps them or hurts them. But yeah, they're a very, very strong team. There's no doubt. You don't get to 8-2 without being a very strong team. But I think it takes more than a great group chat to win this league. Mm-hmm. So they have that, and now they have to, perform the next 5-6 weeks.
Okay, what's your view of the 4 and 6 teams? There's 3 of them. You got Time, you got to Believe, and you got To the Moon. And do you group the Knights with them at 5 and 5, or do you think the Knights are a little bit of a step above them? What's your view of that whole thing that's forming at the bottom of the standings?
I think I group the Knights with them. I think the Knights have a very tough schedule. I think they play us the last week, so they don't have a cupcake, going into the last week. I think we're going to need those wins. And I think they play To the Moon this week coming up. So they're playing the team that's directly under them and probably the hottest of the 3 teams. I think that they're a very good team, and they made a nice trade. They got stronger on defense without weakening their bats somewhat, but I think that, losing Saban is a major loss. You see what he's doing to... you got to believe, which
he's barely gotten out on that team.
Exactly. So I think that I put all 4 of those together, and there's a couple of spots, and you know what, they're really fighting to be in the 1 game. I think that the Aces are kind of going to distance themselves. I think they're a very good team, and it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks. I think that I didn't play Maurice Haber's team when they were this team. But they look like they have something going. And MC is a scary player. And Steven Shalhoub hasn't, really gotten going yet.
No.
So if he gets going and you have 2 of, let's say, the top 4 or 5 players in the league behind a Ralph Hannon who seems like he's starting to figure it out, that team, to me, is a dangerous team. The Knights have the offense and the defense. We all know it comes down to Leo. When is he going to become the Leo of the White Walkers, or is he not? And I think we waited for that last year a little bit on Cold Blooded, and it never kind of came. So they're waiting. We split a lot last year. We were in the middle of the pack, and then that last week we swept Ralph Hannon, and we kind of became a better team than we were. But you know what? For all intents and purposes, all year we were a 500 team with a great lineup.
Yeah, but you actually started 0-3 last year. So first you had to come back to 500. Then you were staying at 500, and then you propelled just in the last moment. Right. This team started 3-1. They fell down to 3-3, 4-4, 5-5, and I thought there were a couple of weeks where they were gonna sweep, and they just didn't get it done. There seems to be, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's only Leo. I don't know if it's a vibe. There's something that's not there where they seem to just be a middle-of-the-pack team. I think they'll get in the playoffs. I don't think 2 teams are going to jump them, but I just don't see them making that much noise against the top teams.
Who does Time play this week?
time plays an AB. You got to
play
believe
each other. That also helps the Knights, because if someone sweeps, someone's getting swept, and they still stay in.
Right.
So that would help the Knights. So like mathematically, I think it's a good thing for them to try to get in.
Right.
The teams below
or if
them
they
play them.
split, let's say they split, they both go to 5 and 7. If
Then they just
split,
can't get swept.
then they just can't get swept.
They just can't get swept.
Right. So for a team like To the Moon, let's say, if they sweep the Knights, they would go to 6 and 6. The Knights would fall to 5 and 7, and both those teams would be 5 and 7. All of a sudden, To the Moon could suddenly find themselves in
being
fourth
the home
place
team for the
4-5 game. Exactly. Do you give Cherokee's Tribe any chance to get a game against the Aces, or are you seeing the Aces taking care of business?
I give them a chance to get a game. Because they have competitors, you know. You have A.B. Saka, Ali Marshall, and if JT wants to be included in that, he could be included. If he doesn't want to be included, he doesn't have to be included. You know, it depends on how he wakes up Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But you know what? With A.B. and Ali, there's pride there. You know what? It's kind of embarrassing how their seasons fell apart, and I don't think that they're giving up. They lost the second game last week 2-1 to the best team in the league, so they're in the games.
They're in every game.
So do I give them a chance to win? I do. Do I think they will win? Maybe not. You know, it's hard to. I don't see them going on a run and then getting in anything.
Right.
So it's hard, especially game ones. You know, you gotta win. If you don't win game 1, how you respond in a game 2 when you're 2-8 or 2-9?
Yeah.
You know, that's when you start, you know, getting phone calls from your wife that she wants you to come home, and your kid has a T-ball game.
Yep.
And you know, all those distractions come in when you have to justify why you're missing family time for a bad ball team.
What is the story with JT that all year he talks about YMSL and he sends the voice notes and he can't wait and he's thinking about it all year, and then you see him come to the field, I see 12th round picks that are more pumped to be there, where he looks like he's just, you know, going through the motions and walking slowly to center. What is that? Is that just his style?
I think, you know, it's starting to become, you know, a rumor around the league, you know, and it goes back to like the old adage, you know, if you can't play, coach. If you can't teach. You know, something like that. And he's very comfortable in the analyst role.
Are you pushing him to the booth?
Maybe he's time that he just goes into the booth full time, because it doesn't seem like he wants to, you know, be out there and, you know, put in the work. I think that this year, more than ever, the last couple of years, you see a difference in work ethic. It's not just a Sunday morning league.
No.
People are taking it seriously. They're in the cages during the week. They're working out. They're eating right. You know, it's becoming, and maybe it's silly. We're not getting paid to play, but at the same time, if people are going to take it seriously like that, it shows when you don't take it seriously. And I think JT has a lot of talent, but talent only gets you so far. When people are working hard, you get passed by. And I think that, you know what, to be one of the top center fielders, he's probably not. He's probably one of the bottom center fielders.
Wow.
So I think that, you know what, he's a few years younger than me, and when I was 30, maybe he's 30 or 29, I was probably on that same, having to make that decision. And I decided to get serious and work hard and rehab my knees and get in shape. And I became, you know, what I'm doing now. So I don't think it's
I mentioned it last week, and I know you heard it. You came up with all those guys, and they're starting to come down because that's the normal way. And you were first, you were here, and now you're first skyrocketing. What do you attest that to? Is that the batting cages that you go to every day, the working out? What is it?
I think it's all inclusive. I think it's hard work. I think that I got by a lot on, you know, being good and thinking I was good and trying to hit home runs and not understanding the game and swinging at the wrong pitches. And I kind of, you know, started listening more to my dad and listening more to my body and figuring out that if I really wanted to be great, and you want to be mentioned with Eli Braha and Jackie Hadid and Nathan Towell, there's a longevity to it and there's a dominance to it. You know what? Just being a first round or second round pick doesn't really get you remembered. So I was coming off of injuries. I hurt my knees, and just to play again, I had to get in shape. just to play again, I had to rehab, and I had to sit out a year and realize that I missed it. And I watching all these other guys, you know, be talked about. Farkas winning the Triple Crown, and I'm sitting on the side.
Well, you joined us in the booth that
year,
booth, so.
You know, so it was a difficult pill to swallow. But I was able to start hitting before I was able to start running or you know, lifting. I was able to start hitting, and I got back into the cages, and I started, you know, really rebuilding my swing. I took my swing from, you know, I was very, very closed and, you know, more right field to opening it up and using the torque and using my hips, and I kind of, you know, found my stroke. And I continue to work on it. You know, nothing. It's definitely not done. I'm working extremely hard, and that's what really I tested to. I think that, you know what, I think I work harder than everybody else, and that's something that I'm proud of. I'm not trying to be cocky. I just don't think that there's someone working harder than me, and I think that that's what fuels me. If I do feel that, I go out and I hit 200 balls the next day. So I'm driven, and really, you know what, the personal accolades I got last year. I won the MVP, first time winning it. I won a gold glove and the batting title. But now I'm doing it to help the team. You know, I'm trying to get as many guys on my team in the cages, as many guys on my team in the gym, and trying to lead by example, because I think it'll pay off for us in the long run. And what we really want is on the name on the trophy that stays forever.
Well, it is true, because if you want to be mentioned with Elliot Braha and all these guys that you mentioned, Nathan Towell, you got to win a bunch of championships, and not just also in a row. You have one from a few years ago. You have another one from a few years before that. You pick another one up now. I was talking to Zach about this last year, like when he won with swimming. Okay, that's great. You won. You had a great pitcher. Now next year you got to figure out how you're going to win, because no one's going to give you Maxi Deed again next year. You know, like, you got to continue to find ways to win it all in this league to be considered one of the all-time greats. Because
and I think it's hard. You know, I think I've had teams that I thought were the best teams. We were the #1 seed with the Peaches, me and you.
Yes, that was a phenomenal
the #1
team.
seed with the Knights. You know, we had a good team last year. I had a good team with All In, and sometimes the breaks don't fall your way, because, you know what, it's not about sometimes the best team, it's about the hottest team.
Yep.
It's about, you know what, you get a bad call against you and not letting it ruin and lose a game. You know what, the semifinals is 2 out of 3. And one of the teams is going to win game 1 and one of the teams is going to lose game 1.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of pressure, and how you bounce back and how you stay together. You know, it's a crapshoot. So I think that there's a lot of variables involved, and all you can do is trust the process that you put yourself in, and work as hard as you can and hope it works out. But I agree. I think that I've squandered a few opportunities to get my name on the trophy a couple of more times, and it makes me hungrier today.
So I think you changed the league in the amount that people work on their swing, work on their hitting, work on their game in general. Because you were doing that. You mentioned the Peaches. We were going to the cages with the Peaches way back then. Not every week before the game, not as much, but we were going a lot. I remember a bunch of Fridays we went. You rented the cages for us and everything. We all went. We worked on things. But now it seems like across the league, people in Brooklyn are working on their game. Zach had this thing, this fielding mechanism. It was like a glove without, you know,
Right.
I forgot what he calls it or whatever. And he's blocking balls left and right and everything. Everyone is obsessed. Everyone is working on their game so much. And I really think it started with a bunch of people, but mainly with you, with the way you worked on your swing constantly like that. So I think that's a big testament to you and how much you've worked in the past.
I think also I think you bring the energy back into the league. I thought Bobby had a great run when he had the towels, his nephews working it and making the commercials, and it was fun. And then, you know, a few years it just became softball, which is fun too, which is great, but it lost its luster. And then I think when DSN and Norman get involved and make it this great spectacle, and you know you're gonna have highlights, you know what, you don't want to look like a fool on the highlights, and or you know, you have shows and people talking about you, so people take it more seriously. So I think it's a combination of, you know, of what I'm doing off the field, but what you're doing on the camera that kind of raised the level of the league for sure.
Yeah, and it's small things also, like the uniform rule also. You got to look like a team when you show up at the field. Everyone, you got to show up to a field and know That's the Kekambas over there. I see them across there. They're playing against time because I see the ridiculous purple. I got to know who's on a team. You got to be in the huddle. You all look the same. And
you look at sometimes you post on the Instagram 7 years ago, the highlights, and it looks like...
Looks terrible.
It looks terrible. It's hard to look at.
I have that reaction every time. I don't know if anyone else does, but I have that reaction. What they look like, it looks horrible. The Orioles celebration... When they won the World Series, that final out, there's 2 guys in uniform and 10 guys in all different colors. Doesn't look like a team to me. Okay, let's get on to this week's games. I already made my predictions, but we want to hear your predictions. And let's start with a layup for you, nice little layup for you on Oceanport 2. With your own team, the Kekambas, against Threat Level Midnight. Usually I don't ask a guy to predict their own game.
I'm not going to pick the game. I mean, I would pick a split or I'll pick a split.
Mo Haber shocked me when he picked the split also.
I think I pick a split. I think it's the right move. I don't think, to come out and say that we're the better team than the first place team, it doesn't mean anything. I think we're going to have to earn it. It's going to be 2 tough games. And most often than not, the 2 best teams probably split. I think we're very evenly matched teams.
Then are you saying going in that you're expecting to lose a game? That's your prediction.
I think that, I think that if we do lose a game in week 6, it doesn't really mean that they're the better team. If we win both, doesn't mean that we're the better team. I think that, it's just about proving it between the white lines, and I think that my team knows that. We're focused, we want to win, we're going to do everything we can to win, but we're not cocky enough to think that we're so much better than the best team in the league. They're 8-2 for a reason. They've beat all the teams that they had to beat. You know what, they don't make excuses until they lost to Aces and said they didn't play their game, whatever that means. They made an excuse that they didn't play the way they usually play, or whatever that is. And hopefully we can get them to not play the way they usually play. Because if they play the way they usually play, they don't lose. But when they don't play the way they usually play, we have a shot.
So in other words, the other team didn't beat them. They didn't play the way they usually play.
But it's not an excuse. But it isn't an excuse by any means. I don't think Teddy makes excuses. The excuses make Teddy. Teddy doesn't make excuses.
What does it mean? Pressure fears us.
I don't know. It's an interesting quote. It's interesting.
We don't fear pressure.
Yeah, I don't know. And I was actually looking for quotes to incorporate pressure into this interview.
Right.
And I couldn't. I saw one. Pressure makes diamonds.
Okay.
I like that.
I like it. Yeah.
You know what? I don't know where he was going with that. I think
he made it up because I haven't found that. I haven't heard that ever before in my life. We don't fear pressure. Pressure fears us. Dash Teddy Ishak. That's his. And I think he made that quote himself. I sort of like it. I don't know what it means, but I think sort
it just
of
went
like
with the whole vibe of that interview.
It was just going.
You know what? It kind of went with it. It kind of went with everything he was saying. And you know what? He went the opposite. He had, to the extreme level, thinking that Joe Greenberg's the best player in the league, and John's the best shortstop in the league, and Daniel's the best third captain in the league.
Right, but MC is the game changer. Right.
And everything, he said all the right things in a way that, rubbed everyone else the wrong way. But that's, them against the world. It worked for swimming last year. It can work for them this year. And it's on everyone else to shut them up by winning.
Okay, Aces versus Cherokee's Tribe. 6-4 Aces versus 2-8 Tribe, still somewhat mathematically alive.
I played the Aces last week. They're an excellent team, and in my opinion, Max Edid is the best pitcher in the league.
Wow.
He's the best. I think that he throws the hardest. He throws the different pitches. He's uncomfortable in the box. He's a competitor. He's becoming the villain also in a way.
Yeah.
You know what? He embraces that role, and he has a lot of moxie on the mound. It's sort of what Naby was. I think Naby's a little bit tamed. I think it's maybe because he's a captain, maybe because you warned him too many times. You know what? I like Naby when he had the edge, and everyone thought he was an a-hole, and who cares? You know what? I'm winning World Series. I can say whatever I want. And he's, Max has that swag about him. I think they're a great team. Eddie Richte's excellent. Hasn't lost a step. They have a lot of lineup. They play a little bit different with the 4 outfielders. It's a little bit different. It's almost like Syracuse plays the zone,
right?
You know, and if you don't play it every week, it's tough to adjust. And all of a sudden you find your team, everyone's trying to hit the ball up the middle instead of taking the big cuts and trying to hit the ball over people's heads.
Yeah.
So I think that Aces will sweep.
It's hard to beat them when they're playing that different type of game. It's like when you try to start a reliever against Tampa, it doesn't work either. They know that game and everything.
You can't play their game. They're good at their game.
They're good at their game.
You just got to tip the hat and hope you know, you get the breaks when you can against them.
Okay, let's come over to Fireman's Field where it gets interesting. Right behind us, 5-5 Knights against the 4-6 To The Moon. I sort of am on this rising moon thing. I think they're going to take 2, although the Knights rarely lose 2. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think that the Rising Moon will win 2.
Really?
I think they're a very good team, and I think that both teams have the star power.
Oh yeah.
You know, Farka and this kid Marty is both of them MVP candidates, if not front runners. And they're carrying that offense. I think losing a bat like Saban makes them a little bit less weaker and not as much depth. I think A.B. Cohen is a great outfielder, and Ruby's a great short center, and Henry's playing short for them.
Right.
So I think that, you know, Henry playing short for them was interesting because I didn't know about the Joe injury.
I didn't know either.
And I think that that's not, you know, while they got a guy who can play short, I think from a range perspective, they probably don't have the best shortstop still.
Right.
You know, whereas if Henry was to play third, they'd have a great third baseman. I played with him last year, but they have D.C. Cohen, who's a great third baseman.
Yeah.
So they're an interesting team. It comes down to Leo. And I played with Leo last year, and nothing I say or you say, at the end of the day, he's going to have to earn it and prove it, and he won, and he's still got to prove it again.
Exactly.
So it comes down to, you know what, to me, the problem with Leo last year wasn't even the walks. It was the 2-0, 3-1. If you're 2-0 and 3-1 from 6 on down, the batter's taking aggressive, confident swings.
Yeah.
So yes, you didn't walk the Birdman, but you had to give him a cookie because
right.
you're 3-1 and he's swinging out of his heels. And you know what? The defense is a step back because it's 3-1. They know you're lobbing it in. Everyone's, you know. And the catcher's not getting you the ball, and you're working slow.
It's also annoying to play in the field like that.
Yeah, it kind of snowballs.
By the way, your dad got on Ike Batesh really, really hard that he didn't get the ball back to A.B. Cohen.
Yes, we're not on the same page, me and my father, when it comes to getting on Ike Batesh. Ike Batesh is doing a good job. I think that we need to vocally in public be more together. We are together as a team. But that doesn't do anyone any good because all it did was get the Aces on Ike Batesh even more. So I think
but Ike's such a great guy, and he took it.
He takes it. He was in the cages this week.
He's hitting great this year.
But also we found the catcher in A.B. Dweck that I think, you know what, he has no ego and kind of took it in stride, came to me, whatever I could do for the team. He wants to play. I could get him some more playing time by catching him. He's more than willing to do so.
You have certain guys like Hollywood and like Salf Alice that would only succeed as good as they are on your team. They're very comfortable on your squad. You know, even Ike Batesh, I never saw him hitting like this before. You're talking about a late round pick. He's hitting the cover off the ball, and he's hitting legitimate shots deep. I don't know what his average is. I don't really care, but I see the way he's hitting the ball so hard every time. Okay, last prediction you have. You gotta believe AB 4-6 versus Time 4-6. This is a tough one.
You gotta believe versus Time. You know, I was thinking about Time this morning when I woke up. I was just going through the teams, and Sam Mishon is a great player. Shimmy Cohen is a great player. Aharon Cohen is a great player.
Zach
is a great player. They have 4 really good, great players. Great players. Like, at any given week, they can win Player of the Week. And they probably have. I think Aaron won one last year. Shimmy won one last year, maybe this year.
Right.
Zach's always running in the running. And Sam's a great player who works extremely hard also. I think, to me, the most important player on their team is Nathan Batesh. and he was the most important player on swimming
Yes,
last year.
yes.
Because they batted him before Farka and Zach. The week we played them, he was out this year, so we swept them. But I knew it was, you know, kind of fool's gold. You're playing them without their Energizer bunny, or the straw that stirs the drink. If Nathan's batting 1 and he gets on, it just puts so much pressure because you know the big bats are coming up. And he works walks, he's small, he bends down, he's a feisty, tough at-bat. But if he's getting out, it just makes you have to face Zach with 1 out. I could pitch around him, you know, set up the force. All of a sudden, everything opens up if you get Nathan Batesh out. And the key last year is he didn't get out many times, and he worked his walks, and he got on base.
Especially in the postseason.
And he was dangerous, and I think that, you know, that's the key for them. Z rolled with a few certain guys. Jigga behind the plate, I think I've seen a lot this year. Making plays at the plate is a big difference.
Yeah.
Having the confidence that you could go home or throw home, and Jigga brings that to that team. So they're definitely dangerous. I think Jeffrey is, for me personally, probably one of the toughest pitchers I face. I think he's very, very mentally advanced. You know, he knows how he wants to get hitters out.
Now, at this time in the year especially.
He knows how he wants to get hitters out. He executes his game plan, and it's about, can time score 3, 4 runs. I think Jeffrey holds him down. I know he's maybe getting hit. I think he's going to lock him down. And I think that if time could score, they don't have to score a lot. They just have to score, and mostly from the top of the order. It's up for the big guys to produce.
The key matchup you're saying is Nay B versus Nay B, basically.
Nay B versus Nay B. And I think that time will sweep.
Wow! Sweep
I
for
think
time.
That time will sweep. I think that we played, you gotta believe, and they're a very good team. I think that they rely too much on Saban's bat.
Yeah, that's all they have still.
And maybe people are saying that Kekambas rely too much on my bat. And
I would disagree with that wholeheartedly.
I would also, I think that,
I've seen your team play.
You'd never hear it because he doesn't talk much, but Jake Dweck is a great player, and I'm so happy that I got to play with him again. And Mark's having a great year.
I would say they're all doing better because you're there. You have to know 3, 4 batters before you that you're looming, that you're coming. You bat second or third or whatever you bat, and you're there.
You can't afford to walk those guys.
Don't walk this guy. Give him the cookie. Don't walk him, because then you can't walk you.
You know what? DK is getting a lot of pitches to hit and hitting the ball on the ground. But yeah, so going back to you gotta believe, I think also, you know what? Depending on how Joe Chira fills in for Michael Beta, who fills in for A.B. Cohen. Yeah. You know what? They have a lot of different turnover on the team, but he's got to be great every week because they're relying on him not only to patrol center field, which I think he can do in his sleep, but to hit, and that's the most important thing. You can't have a lineup where Saban's the only guy that I got to worry about. Yeah. And I could really pitch around him if I have to. If the guys in front of him and behind him don't get on. So I think that time, you know what? They're a little bit. They've been all over the place. They haven't been focused like swimming was beginning to end. But I think that this is the time of the year that you really need to be focused. Yeah. You know what? Last year they went on a run, week 1 through the end of the year that we've seen, and it was. But it's hard to do that. It's hard to be that intense from opening day through July. And I think maybe the late start, the COVID start, kind of made it that way. It was later in the summer. People were more excited to play softball. Yeah. You know, now you're back to regular life, and you have work during the week, and you can't just talk in the group chat all day. So I think that they got in off to a, you know, they would say it a slow start, a slow middle, you know, and now they're at the end. So I think they come out to play, though. I think Aharon and Shimmy have big weeks, and I think Zach's always dangerous and never pick against them.
Just to review, you have time sweeping and you have To the Moon sweeping. That would be 2 6-6 teams. That would kill the Knights to 5-7, and you gotta believe to 4-8 all of a sudden. That would reshape the league. I wish we played today because we could have seen if any of this stuff actually happened already. Instead, we gotta wait, and wait we will. What can we do? There's nothing we can do. Jack, thank you once again. You brought it. You brought your A game. Thank you for coming back into the booth. We missed you, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I was saving it. I thought I was going to be asked for the playoffs.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that in the playoffs I'm playing playing deep and don't want to give my opinions then even more than I want to give them now. So I'm happy to get it over with. But at the same time, it's a great experience. I love the league. I love my team. and we're looking forward to having a lot of fun next Sunday.
Okay, Jack, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back. Thank you.